You have a lot of choices on draft day, but which running backs are absolute must-haves? If you like drafting like we do, check out our mock drafts every Tuesday and Thursday. You can join us and the Endgame community as we mock draft. Check the link in the description below and sign up now. All right, Chris, let's start with you. Which running back are you keeping your eye on in every single draft?
Well, this is a guy that I'm not a big fan of, since I'm a fan of the Washington football team, but it's Ezekiel Elliott. I think he's an absolute must draft. He's looking like a steal. In case you didn't notice or didn't hear, Dak Prescott just signed a 4-year, $160 million contract to remain the Cowboys quarterback. And in the games with Dak Prescott, the entire Dallas offense was better. Zeke was tremendously better, averaging over 22 points per game in the 5 games he played with Dak Prescott. Plus, that offensive line was decimated last year. They're going to be getting back 4 starters on that offensive line who missed half the season or more last year. So not only is Dak Prescott going to help Zeke out, but that offensive line is going to be better, and that's going to help Zeke out. And we're seeing Zeke being drafted at the 8th, the 9th, the 10th spot in some drafts. And he kind of is giving me that Dalvin Cook feeling from last year when people were a little, nervous about Dalvin Cook potentially holding out, and he fell to like the 7th or 8th pick and ended up being a league winner. And I could see that happening for Zeke this year.
Absolutely. Look, this isn't an issue of health. Even with Cook, there was some injury questions, because of his history. Zeke was fine health-wise. He's good, and he's not switching teams. The only issue that Zeke had was that his quarterback was hurt for almost the entire season. And now we know it's a sure thing that he'll be back. Look, the last couple of years, he was a surefire top 5 pick. Why shouldn't he be this year? So if you can get him anywhere past pick number 5, I'm definitely on board with that. He's definitely being underdrafted right now. All right, now the guy that, might be overdrafted. At this point, the price is getting a little rich, but you know what? I don't care. I'm all in, and you know that I'm talking about Cam Akers. I've been in on him since he was drafted by the Rams, and it was about time that he finally took over the starting job. Look, the rib injury, and then just Sean McVay, for whatever reason, slow playing him into the lineup, kind of conspired to make him a late season breakout instead of a rookie breakout. But this is a guy everybody's on now because you saw what happened. The end of the year from weeks 12 through 15, averaged 98 rushing yards a game. Then he had to miss a game with an injury. Of course, it happened to be championship week for fantasy. And then week 17, they kind of rushed him back because they had to win. And he didn't do much. And then the playoffs came, and what did he do? He ripped off 131 rushing yards and 90 rushing yards and a touchdown in each on the ground. So we know what he can do. We know he's going to be the guy going forward. And this offense is just going to be better with Stafford at quarterback because there's going to be a lot more fear from the defense as opposed to last year. I don't know, that offense got a little stagnant with Goff at the helm. So I'm all in on Akers. Now look, I'm not drafting him ahead of guys like Zeke. I'm not drafting him in the top 5. But if I have a later pick like 10, 11, 12, I have no problem pulling the trigger because I think he is legit RB1.
Yeah, you've been on Akers since he was drafted, really. So no surprise here that you are all over Cam Akers this year. And as you should be, because he's looking like an absolute stud in 2021. And then the next running back that I'm definitely getting every chance I can is Austin Eckler. Now, this wasn't a guy I was super high on last year, but this year I don't understand. He's falling to the 2nd round, even the 3rd round of some of the mock drafts that we've done, and I just don't get it. He scored double-digit fantasy points in every game with Justin Herbert last year, and he averaged 19 points per game. Those are running back 1 numbers, and he's being drafted outside the top 12 running backs, right? A lot of times he's going running back 15. We've seen him go even at the 2-3 turn in some of our drafts, and I just don't understand why people are so low on Austin Eckler. He really doesn't have any competition, right? Joshua Kelly looked terrible last year. Justin Jackson is just okay. I doubt they're going to go out there and bring in a big-time free agent or draft, a running back with high draft capital. Austin Eckler is going to be the guy. He's used all the time out of the backfield. He's almost like an Alvin Kamara light, but nobody drafts him that way. I think he's an absolute steal in the 2nd round, even the 3rd round of drafts if he falls that far.
Yeah, that would be crazy to get him in the 3rd round, but it could happen. I mean, we've seen some mocks already where he keeps slipping, and I'm not sure why. It's just like with Elliott, you mentioned, he's in the same team. It's going to be, different head coach here, but similar offense, similar supporting cast. They're not going to bring in competition. They already drafted a running back last year. It didn't turn out very well with Kelly. I think they're fine with Eckler and the cast of characters behind him. He's going to be the guy. He brings that pass catching floor. He's basically being penalized in drafts because of an injury that happened last year that he already got over because he ended the season healthy. So it doesn't make sense that he would fall. So absolutely right. He's a great guy to grab in the second round if he's available. A guy I'm targeting that may be a little bit risky, but again, I feel like the ceiling is here for DeAndre Swift. And look, I was down on Swift last year because I thought his draft capital was too much. I kind of feel the other way around now because, well, this is a guy who's going to be the focal point of the offense, and he wasn't last year. I don't care if Adrian Peterson's back or not. It doesn't matter. This is a brand new coaching staff with a philosophy of smash mouth football. Dan Campbell wants to run the ball, and he's already said he wants to feature Swift as a receiver, working him in the slot out of the backfield. As it is, he averaged 4.5 receptions per game when he was on the field last year. He missed a little bit of time with a concussion, so that also kind of disrupted his rookie year. But this is a guy who is a legit pass-catching threat. He barely got to touch the ball on the ground. They didn't give him even double-digit carries per game. That's going to shoot up, obviously, as well. So I feel like this is somebody who could return first-round value, but he's not going in the first round basically anywhere. So I love Eckler because of his pass-catching floor, and that he's the guy there. I love Swift because of his ceiling and the massive production that he could deliver on a weekly basis.
Man, I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. Swift is one of those guys I'm just having such a hard time figuring out. He's so polarizing for me. I mean, definitely I agree with you. He could have a massive ceiling, but I just feel like there's some bust potential there. So I'm going to let him be your guy. I'm going to let you draft him. I'm going to let other people draft him. And maybe I'll miss out on a league-winning running back, but sometimes you got to do that. And then if you have been doing any drafts with us, I've been taking this guy a lot because a lot of times what I'll do is I'll take an early running back and then I'll wait forever on my RB2. And a lot of times it's this guy, and that's Ronald Jones of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I don't think Leonard Fournette is going to be back with the Buccaneers. Look, they have very little cap space. They have free agents they have to sign. They're probably going to end up franchise tagging Chris Godwin. There's just not going to be room for Leonard Fournette, in my opinion, unless he takes a terrible deal, which I don't think he'll do. That's going to leave Ronald Jones basically as the 1A on this team. And in the 4 games that Leonard Fournette did not play last year, he scored 18, 15, 26, and 15 fantasy points. That's better than RB2 numbers. I think he's at worst a solid RB2, but he's being drafted outside the top 30 running backs. I think he's an absolute steal in drafts, and he's a guy that if you're waiting on that RB2, or maybe you took a couple running backs early and you're getting worried about your running back room, grab Ronald Jones. I think he's going to pay off big time in 2021.
Yeah, he's the guy that hasn't been considered even an RB2 in our early mocks. But you know what? This is definitely recency bias at play because, well, in the playoffs, in the Super Bowl, Leonard Fournette kind of, took the lead there and he looked pretty good. Is he going to be back? Who knows? We're not quite sure yet. But even so, look, I'll admit I was wrong on Ronald Jones last year. I thought that he was going to be cast aside and that Fournette was going to be the guy, which is why they brought him in. And he really wasn't until the playoffs, basically. So I'm willing to give Jones a chance because it seems like, well, Bruce Arians actually does sort of believe in him. So this is a guy that if Fournette either doesn't come back or is hurt, I mean, look at that offense that he's on. He absolutely could be an every week starter if the opportunity is right. And then my final one is a guy I've always been high on because I feel like he always is just underappreciated, and he's about to get underappreciated by his own team, and that's Chris Carson. Look, it's all but a foregone conclusion. He's not going to come back to Seattle. They pretty much said as much. They're not going to pay up for a veteran running back. They got their own problems to worry about and whether they're going to keep Russell Wilson in town. But look, we talked about this in the free agent predictions. I feel like Carson's going to land in a really good spot at a running back needy team like Atlanta. That's my personal choice. Maybe San Francisco and maybe the Dolphins, maybe even better situation. So he's going to go to a team that views him as a feature back. This is a guy, let's not forget, averaged 4.6 yards per carry for his career. Last year, he was actually better. He averaged 4.8 yards a carry. Look, missed a couple of games with some injuries, but this guy is a warrior and he will absolutely get 200 plus carries for whatever team he goes to. So I feel like I'm going to grab him as my RB2 wherever I can.
Yeah, and if you watched our free agency prediction video that dropped on Monday, I predicted him to the 49ers. You predicted him to the Falcons. If he goes to either of those teams, his value is going to skyrocket because he's stepping into an immediate RB1. Well, I shouldn't say RB1, but into the immediate top running back role for either of those teams. So I think, yeah, definitely his value is just only going to go up.
All right, so those are our picks for must-have running backs early in the 2021 draft season. Show us who your top picks are. Join us in those mock drafts I already mentioned. Check out the link in the description. Hit us up with a comment. Let us know who are your must-haves and what do you think of ours. All right, and give us a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We definitely appreciate that. Thanks for watching.